it burned out the motor or it just won't start now. I guess we got another little motor once we can get it out here, we can take off with that one.
These good Samaritans are helping a private boater who was in distress. He got something caught in his prop and washed up on the beach in Surfside, California, early Friday morning.
No, live right here. We just right here. Came out to help.
You guys are awesome.
I got a boat, so I know how to do it.
I know. I've been there before.
Great news is Albacore biting out of Half Moon Bay and around Santa Cruz, California. It's the first time in about a decade that we have seen these albacore. The weather's been nasty for about a month, but the minute it came down, the albies started to bite. Kevin Harvey on the Controlled Chaos has been out the past couple of days. He's had right around 20 albacore on each trip. Add to that some big bluefin tuna off Morro Bay, California, and things are looking great. Tremendous two-day trip on board the Mirage out of Channel Island Sport Fishing as they tallied 62 halibut, 44 white sea bass, and barracuda and rockfish to go along with that. Hal Cooksey was on that trip, and he said the crew on the Mirage and the captain were fantastic. How can it get much better than this? Tremendous halibut and white sea bass fishing in the Channel Islands. Hope you can get up there soon. Bite at the Coronado Islands on yellowtail. The Mission Bell yesterday at a Point Loma Sport Fishing had 78 yellowtail. Most of those fish on a fly line bait, fishing fluorocarbon, choosing a good hot bait, changing that bait regularly. But it was full speed surface iron fish. Also looking good there. Water warm, tons of yellows around, and with a little bit slower fishing for offshore full day boats, this is a viable option. Remember, when you fish Coronado Islands, you must bring a passport. Get on this. It is red Southern California is set for one of the biggest marlin years in a long time. Captain Pete Grossbeck has vast knowledge and experience. One of his friends was between the west end of Catalina and the west end of San Clemente Island. When he saw a foamer, he anticipated rolling up on bluefin tuna. Instead, it was 12 feeding marlin. He cast on it, hooked a couple of fish immediately. More and more of these big schools of marlin are being seen right now, and that points to a huge season. Add to that the biomass, says Grossbeck, of bait that's in the area, mackerel, sardine, and anchovy, and also the warm El Nino waters pushing more marlin in this direction. We are setting up for a really big marlin year in SoCal. We're fishing in Southern California right now for a variety of species, corvina, yellowfin croaker, spotfin croaker, halibut, and so much more. Digging up sandworms is one way to really catch these critters because they love to bite the sandworms. If not, you can pick up bait at your favorite tackle store. But right now, the surf bite in Southern California really excellent. The El Patron operates out of 22nd Street Landing in beautiful San Pedro, California, and they have a slew of 1.5-day trips where you'll fish with only 10 anglers on board. Bluefin tuna fishing, yellowtail fishing is outstanding in Southern California, and there's no better way to do it than on the El Patron. 310-832-8304 or visit 22ndstreet.com. Hey, good morning, my dear friends, and welcome to beautiful Surfside, California, where there's all kinds of excitement this morning. The boat's washed up on the beach, as you saw on the lead, and these guys behind me are catching copious amounts of surf fish. Again, surf fishing is really heating up here in Southern California. Good time to hit the surf, and man, there's nothing more economical, easier on your wallet than going surf fishing. It's fun and you can get a lot accomplished, but there is so much going on. There is really good marlin sign in Southern California. I think we're poised for a huge year this year. Up there in the Channel Islands, tremendous white sea bass and halibut fishing. At the Coronado Islands, just a little south of the border, great yellowtail bite for the Mission Bell. There's still bluefin. There's great local bass fishing. You know what time it is. It is time for the morning briefing. Good morning, my friends. Oh my God, is that good? Hey, I want to start out today's show by mentioning a gentleman in Las Vegas, California, Lee Weiss. Lee is a blind angler, and he took the time to send me this beautiful note on Messenger about how he listens to the morning briefing every morning, and the description of the fishing just really makes him so happy and satisfied. He gets to follow the bite. And Lee, I've got to tell you, my friend, I really want to thank you for taking the time to send me that beautiful message. It means so much to me. Lee said he'd like to go fishing with me in the very near future, and I would like to do that. That is for sure. So some really great stuff going on in SoCal, and I want to thank Lee one more time again in Las Vegas. All right, let's get into it. If you don't mind, give me a like. It would be fantastic. Subscribe to the Friedman Adventures channel. Also, you can share these videos if you are enjoying them. And please, please, please tick that little bell and you'll be notified when there is new content. Man, I got to tell you, we are seeing some really good signal on marlin here in SoCal. And I get that from Captain Pete Grossbeck. And Pete has more knowledge about sport fishing, albacore, marlin, everything in his little finger than I have in my entire body. He's really a knowledgeable guy and providing great information. Pete points out the fact, as you saw in the lead-in, the biomass of bait up here, sardine, mackerel, anchovy, and the amount of marlin that we're seeing. He thinks there's a possibility that if that marlin gets on anchovy, it could look like Mag Bay up here. And for those of you who have never fished Mag Bay, you can be on a sport boat and have 12 marlin going at the same time. Pete points out that those marlin, when they get on that anchovy, they stay right with it. And man, it's really looking good. Could take off at any point in time, probably a little bit longer, but we'll watch that for you all very, very closely. Albacore up there in Half Moon Bay and Santa Cruz, probably San Francisco. The weather is finally coming down. And out of Monterey, as we told you, some big bluefin tuna biting up there also. Doug Inouye, his buddies were out taking a look around up in that neck of the woods. They were fishing for bluefin tuna. I said, wait a minute, there's albies here. And they started working the albacore, and they ended up with a dozen albacore. So some pretty darn good fishing. No question about it. I love that. Go south the border. Go down to Guerrero Negro. I love that little town. Great for going in the lagoons and whale watching. But they've got some great fishing going on. Check this out. Fishing Warriors with some great big white sea bass and black sea bass and gripper. Nice fishing down there in Ensenada area. We continue to catch that mixed bag fish, bonita, barracuda, bass, occasional halibut, occasional white sea bass. Also, with the offshore situation, real hit and miss right now. Hopefully that's going to come together here very, very soon. We see some Dorado moving on kelp patties. There's a lot of those flatheads starting to move up the Baja Coast, getting pushed in by those warm El Nino waters. So hopefully that Dorado is going to finally settle and bite with some greater frequency. It looks really good. And that bluefin tuna, man, I'll tell you, bluefin are so fickle. They are hit and miss. One day they bite, and the next day they make your hair fall out. So that's just the nature of bluefin. We'll get into some more BFT news up here around San Clemente on it, because that has been really outstanding. We've seen some outstanding fishing on that. But for the most part, Ensenada area, Todos Santos, around that rugged, beautiful, pristine Baja Coast there, Punta Bond area, some really good calico bass fishing, and also occasional yellows, a lot of bonita, big bonita, so that's good news. We'll bump you across the border now and get you into San Diego, and the San Diego-based boats are having some outstanding fishing at the Coronado Islands. Yesterday, the Mission Bell, 78 forkies. Nice bite on the yellows biting the surface iron, biting a fly line bait. 25 to 40 pound fluorocarbon in that bite. Works really, really well. www.opsonusa.com. That fluoro we like a lot. Choosing a good hot bait and changing that bait regularly makes all the difference in the world. So that is good stuff. The bluefin tuna bite, it can be full speed wide open at night and in the daytime with a lot more big fish around. Or it can be, as I mentioned, down south of the border, kind of hit and miss, where it doesn't bite all that well all the time. Great trip as they return on a 3-day trip on the Vagabond. Tremendous fishing for those boys. Excellent fishing on the Tribute so far here this morning. They have a dozen bluefin tuna in the 60 to 120 pound class. Polaris Supreme, we just talked to them, and they are limited out on the first day of a 3-day trip on 40 to 150 pound fish. Thunderbird out of Davies Locker, Newport Beach. These boys are up near San Clemente Island catching some nice fish, 100+ pound stuff on the kites, and also some decent sized fish. Jeff Marklin said it was a little bit challenging to get a bite, but we also saw some of those big fish. That's great stuff. Ernie Montano is on board the Amigo out of 22nd Street Landing in San Pedro. Provided some of these great photos. Jason Lawler, the galley cook, also showing off his first kite fish. And yes, he had to eat the heart because it was his first kite fish. So some really good stuff going on. And on board the Pride, nice bluefin tuna fishing for those boys out of 22nd Street Landing. Moon's Custom Rods on board that one. The Fury out of Dana War Sport Fishing with some good bluefin. Now let me be perfectly clear about this. It is not for everybody. Not everybody gets them. It's kind of hit and miss right now, but man, there are some really good stops, some really nice fish. You get fish up to 200 pounds. And when you're fishing at night, you definitely want to fish knife jigs in the 3 to 400 gram range. I think color is irrelevant. A lot of you think color is important. Go with what you think will give you more confidence when you're fishing. So love what is going on. And there's a lot of fish, as you can hear, from south of the border all the way up to San Francisco. There's bluefin, and now we have that albacore bite going on up there out of Monterey. So things are really looking good on the offshore region, except full day boats out of San Diego. It has been really tough on the full day boats out of San Diego. Just not anything on the offshore region, but as you can see by the Mission Bell, Coronado Islands are a viable option. We should be able to get more fish there, and I think the San Diego is going to head there. You do need a passport to fish at the Coronado Islands, so keep that in mind. All right, let's take a look at the local situation. We covered it down there in Ensenada out of San Diego. Great calico bass fishing. I don't know how it can get much better. Tyler Home out of H&M Landing with great local calico bass fishing. Remember, if you're not getting a bite on calico bass, it's because you're fishing too heavy a line. You're not choosing a good hot bait. You can drop down to 12 pound and you will get bit all day long on the calico bass. Nice fishing. Sergio Osorio with a nice big white sea bass on the 3/4 day boat out of San Diego. So some really excellent fishing down there in that neck of the woods. As we move you up the coast, we see good fishing there at Dana Point and Oceanside. We get you up to the Long Beach, San Pedro areas, and we continue to see great bass fishing. It can't get much better. On board the Spitfire, our buddy Nick Ramirez was on there. Nick has become such an accomplished angler in such a short period of time, and he continues to hammer it out. He said they had limits of bass by 10 a.m. Marcus Fain was on the City of Long Beach. Excellent bass fishing for them. Wide open sand bass, and same thing for Monte Carlo, the Native Sun. Several of the other boats that have been fishing there have been doing really, really well. So excellent local bass fishing, a lot of dropper loop fish, anchovy, lighter line. Again, will get you all the bites that you really need. So keep that in mind as it's crazy down here today. I'm still watching those guys down there trying to get that boat off the beach and watching these guys dig up sandworms and catch more surffish. So it's really alive here, no question about it. The Mirage up there out of beautiful Channel Island sport fishing. Hal Cooksey was on board that trip, and Hal said, Phil, what a trip, what a crew, what a captain. And man, did they put the wood to it with 62 halibut, 44 white sea bass, and a bunch of other stuff, barracuda, rockfish, sculpin, just really a great trip. But man, the halibut and the sea bass bite on the Mirage was something to marvel at. Absolutely fantastic. We have seen some really outstanding fishing going on here in the surf. A lot of kelp on the beach, and that makes it a real pain in the neck, at least here in Surfside. But we've seen some really good Corvina fishing, light line like a trout rod and 6 pound. Works really, really well. You can do really good fishing in here, and those Corvina are right there where those waves are breaking. A foot or two of water is where the Corvina are. Sand crabs, worms. These guys are digging up sandworms and catching a lot of yellowfin croaker this morning. You got big fish bait and tackle on the corner of Seal Beach Boulevard and PCH. They are loaded with all kinds of surf fishing gear and bait. So that's your surf fishing headquarters if you want to get into that. Jeff Waite, a nice 21-inch Corvina. How can you beat that? Jesse Jansen with a white sea bass in the surf. They were after halibut. They'll take that nice sea bass. Nice catch, Jesse. I've caught some really small white sea bass in the surf, but never a decent fish like that. All right, my friends, really some excellent stuff going on here. We'll keep our eyes on it for you very, very closely. If you get a chance, hit that like button, share these videos, subscribe to the channel. Remember, we're on Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And as always, it's a pleasure to be with you all. Have a great day, and I hope to see you really, really soon.